Welcome to Price This House. I'm Dave O'Neil.
And I'm Kimberly O'Neil Mara, both the Century 21 Spindler and O'Neil. And thank you for joining us for our 10th episode.
Can you believe it?
I know, it's been lots of fun.
Thank you for all the positive feedback that we get from people. Every time that we post a new show, we get a lot of positive comments from you, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Now for just the facts.
We're going to start talking about the spring and summer market in North Reading. For single-family homes, for the spring and summer, which basically is April 1 to August 31, there were 91 homes in North Reading that sold. Compared to a year ago, 81 homes in those same 4 months, which is a 12% increase. The average list price was $585,000 for 2015 versus last year at $560,000, which is an increase of 4.4%. The average sales price is at $581,000, and last year it was $555,000. That's a 4.6% increase. The number of days on the market this year is only 46 for an average property, and total days on the market last year was 64 days, down 28%. Homes are selling that much faster. And remember, in those days on market, that is the actual marketing time, but a lot of times properties stay in the MLS system through the purchase and sales agreement, through the home inspection, and even into the first couple of weeks while the buyer is trying to get his financing, so that it stays active. So those days on market actually a little longer than what's taking place in the marketplace.
Those numbers are pretty impressive. I mean, we're just kind of completing the summer months here, so it's, in our rear view mirror, but we had 10 weekends in a row of snow this past winter. So for us to have any sort of activity, never mind a 12% increase, is really, really great news. Exactly.
For condos in North Reading for that spring and summer market, we had 26 versus last year at 17, which is a 52% increase.
It's wonderful.
Average list price, $329,000 versus a year ago at $300,000. That's a 9.6% increase. Average sales price of $324,000 this year versus $295,000, 8.4% increase. And the days on market this year for 58 days, last year 80 days, which means condos took 27.5% less time to sell. Fabulous.
Great news all around.
Fabulous numbers. Multifamilies in North Reading, there was one for this time period versus none a year ago. And when we get to these type of product in the towns that we talk about, you really can't do any adjustments for year to year, basically because we don't have that much inventory. And land is basically the same thing. 1 unit this year, 1 unit last year, and so forth. So again, the North Reading market is very, very healthy, and we're looking forward to a very active fall market as well. Kim?
Thank you. For the Reading single-family home sales, we had a very consistent number of this year versus last, 128 in 2015 versus 127 just a year ago, so no significant change there. However, the pricing did actually increase quite a bit. A year ago, the average list price was $536, and the average list price this year was $577, so that was up 7.6%. The average sale price went from $541 up to $584, so up 7.9%, which is just great news. Days on market went down from 35 a year ago to 32 this year, so that was an 8.5% decrease, which is also great news. In the condo market, these numbers are a little bit skewed because the Pulte project has neared completion, and so we had less sales in 2015 than we did a year ago. A year ago we had 64 units versus 44 sell this year, which is down 31%. Again, when you had such a big project a year ago, it kind of skewed the numbers. The prices did go up, however. They rose from $363 a year ago up to $386, which is a 6.3% increase, and the sales price went from $366 in 2014 up to $390 in 2015, which is a 6.5% increase. Total days on market decreased from 70 to 70 from 123, which is down 43%. Again, last year was a little bit skewed because with new construction, your days on market tend to just add up a little bit more quickly with the new construction timing and whatnot. In terms of multifamilies, we had 2 sell this year versus 7 a year ago. That's down 71%. when you're talking kind of small numbers, the percentages can, seem a little bit skewed. The average list price a year ago was $469. This year it was up to $492, which is a 4.9% increase, and the average sale price was pretty consistent at $471. Total days on market were 48 a year ago and 76 this year, which is up 58%. Not a lot of units with only 2 sold. Again, the data is a little bit hard to read. Reading land, we only sold 1 lot this year versus 2 a year ago. Last year it was $680,000. This year it was $250,000. Again, with land, much different acreage and whatnot. Last year the average sold for $503 versus this year $220, and days on market 26 versus 49 this year. Again, land is kind of tough to read into the data.
Right. Let's move over to Lynnfield now. So for the same spring and summer market in 2015 is exactly the same as the spring and summer market 2014, with 86 properties closed. The average list price last year was $645, this year $689, which is a 6.8% increase. The average sale price this year was $676 versus a year ago at $628, which is a 7.6% increase. Days on the market last year 90 days, this year 72 days, which is a 12% increase. Again, very, very similar percentages. We're seeing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% increases in the prices, both listing and asking, and sale prices. The Lynnfield condo market this year was 11 units versus last year at 21 units. A lot of new construction last year in Lynnfield condos, which is a 47% decrease. List price last year $566, this year $530, which is a 6% decrease. Last year's sale price $567, this year $525, which is a 7.4% decrease. Again, those numbers are skewed because of the difference in inventory. Days on market last year 102, this year 179, which is a 75% increase in condos in Lynnfield. Again, condos are very limited except for the new construction.
The marketplace condos are definitely driving the
Right.
stats there.
Right. And multifamilies in Lynnfield, basically nothing going on. You don't expect that. And land is very, very minimal as well. 1 unit in both years. Again, the prices can be, depending on the individual lot, basically it's negligible differences. Now we'll go to Andover.
Great, thank you. In 2014, for single-family homes, we had 180 versus 186 in 2015, so a slight increase, up 3%. The average list price went from $648 up to $682, which was a 5.2% increase, and the average sales price went from $637 to $671, which is a 5.3% increase. Total days on market was consistent. It went from 67 to 68, so no real comments on that. The Andover market for condos had 57 units sell in 2014 versus 67 in 2015, which is up 17.5%. The average list price was $371 a year ago versus $456 this year, which is a 22.9% increase. Again, depending on the condo building, there's a real variety of condos in Andover. You have some real kind of entry-level units, and then you have some much more expensive, big, beautiful units. So depending on which units those were that sold. The sales price went from $366 a year ago up to $451 this year, which is a 23.2% increase. Total days on market decreased from 89 down to 79, which was an 11.2% decrease. Multifamilies, we only sold 1 this year versus 7 a year ago. Not enough kind of numbers to talk percentages there. The average list price went from $425 to $595, and the average sales price went from $409 to $540. Total days on market went from 58 up to 119, again with only 1 unit to sell. In terms of the land, we really don't have much to talk about. We had 2 units of land sell last year. No land in Andover sold during this period in 2015. So let's turn it over to spotlight some of these homes.
All right. This is one of my favorite parts of the show. We get to go through each of the 4 communities and talk about properties that actually sold, so that we're looking at a specific property in each town. I'm going to start with Reading.
Sure, let's start with Reading. 11 Forest Glen Road in Reading. It's a 7-room, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom home with 1 fireplace. It It was a pristine home. It was a Dutch colonial on manicured corner lot. It was a quiet, dead-end Davis Lane, which showcased exquisite walkways, a stone wall, and mature shrubbery, offering curb appeal galore. It boasted hardwood floors throughout, plus lots of nice woodwork and a fireplace living room, a first-floor den or home office, and an updated kitchen and baths. There was a formal dining room with built-in hutch and an atrium door to the entertainment-sized 21 by 20 deck and patio. It was a lovely fenced-in yard, and it was a great family home. That listed at $515 and sold right off the bat at $525 over asking price, which was, I think, pretty common in the spring market in Reading.
Right. We saw that on a lot of properties this year. And it wasn't that the properties were underpriced, they were priced fairly. They were priced based on their last property that had sold. And there was just such demand that they would overbid.
Yeah.
We're actually going to move into North Reading now, 23 Old Coach Road. It's a 13-room, 6-bedroom, 3.5 bath colonial with 6,100 square feet of living space. Sits on 1.41 acres of land in the new Campbellton Estates subdivision. The home is absolutely exquisite. It has amenities that you just would not expect. It does have professional appliances in the showplace kitchen. It does have a granite island, double drawer dishwasher, stainless sinks, built-in wine refrigerator. Just has a second in-law suite, a 2-bedroom in-law suite, which you hardly ever hear of. Has a fireplace family room, a master suite with a separate sitting area, had a 3rd floor entertainment area, great for the kids to be able to go up to. Absolutely pristine condition throughout, and it was listed at $1.15 million, and it sold for $1.1 million. Home had been on the market quite a while, but a home of this magnitude sometimes takes a little bit of time, but we just happen to have the right buyer, and it's absolutely a great property, and it looks nice for $1.1 million. It's well worth the value.
In Andover, I'm going to talk about a condo in the Balmoral Condominium Association, 16 Balmoral Street, Unit 309. It sold for $100 over list price at $335,000. It's a 4-room, 2-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom home with 1 fireplace, 1,435 square feet. Absolutely beautiful condo. It was formerly the executive administration building for the American Woolen Company, and it was very elegant. It had river views. It was the actual office suite for the president of the company, who spared no expense on exceptional craftsmanship and quality. The living room had rich paneling, spectacular leaf cornice, and intricately carved trim moldings. This type of condo is what you would normally find on Beacon Hill or in the Back Bay of Boston. 11.5-foot ceilings with molded floral and fruit garland borders, as well as a working fireplace with a carved mantel and marble surround. It was an absolutely stunning unit. It was, low maintenance lifestyle in downtown Andover, close to Phillips Academy. It really did feel like that old Boston type of living.
Beautiful unit.
Beautiful
I saw that.
unit.
Right. And now in Lynnfield, we'll talk about 7 Bridle Path. It was listed at $1.225 and sold for $1.185 million. 12 rooms, 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths. It has 2 fireplaces. It was 5,700 square feet of living area with an additional 550 square feet in the lower level. A home has absolutely exquisite master suite. It had a granite double sinks, jacuzzi, separate sauna in the bathroom. The kitchen itself had custom cabinetry, oversized granite island, top-of-the-line Bosch double convection ovens, cappuccino maker, compactor, gas stove, the second sink with the surround system. It was just absolutely exquisite. And again, that home sold for $1.185 in Lynnfield. It just shows you some of the homes that are available in our neighborhoods.
Great. And we are going to be right back. We are very fortunate to have Pat Romeo join us to talk about all things historic in North Reading. So if you would like to stick around, we will be right back. Welcome back.
And we're joined at this point on the 2nd floor of the Damon Tavern, right in the North Reading Center. And we're very pleased to have a special guest with us today, somebody that really doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to ask her to help us out. Pat Romeo. Pat?
Hi, I'm Pat Romeo, and I'm a member of the Historical Commission, and I'm also a past president of the Historical Society here in North Reading, and also director of the Reverend Daniel Putnam House Museum. But as a member of the Historical Commission from its beginnings, I've been very, very excited about the things happening here in North Reading. And perhaps I've been part of the driving force for all of the exciting projects that we've had. And because I've been so immersed in that, it's because of the excitement of the riches that we have here in North Reading. I think people were not aware of the treasures that North Reading has, and one of them is right here in the Damon Tavern. And the ballroom is blessed with the murals of Rufus Porter. Rufus Porter was an itinerant artist, inventor, scientist, you name it, he could do it. He had a very limited education, but he didn't need it. He was a genius. He founded Scientific American magazine, which is still in publication today. He invented a dirigible. He invented a submarine. You name it, he could invent anything you could think of, and the patents are all there. So he came through the countryside in order to support himself by painting murals in buildings and homes. He painted 4 in North Reading. 2 of them still exist, one on Park Street and one here in the ballroom of the tavern. And when the tavern closed, we on the Historical Commission and the Historic District Commission thought that we needed to do something quickly in order to save these murals. There were people in town, including town officials, that thought perhaps the building should be torn down in order to make room for parking. And they also thought that perhaps it should just become an office building and that the murals weren't worth anything. We knew otherwise. So we enlisted various experts to come in and assess the damage which might have been done through the years, and found that it was really not too bad. They were in good shape, and that we should preserve them and get to work and make use of this as a renewed public space. And so the Historical Commission has gone to work, got some grants, sizable grants from the State Historical Commission and from the town meeting and private sources, and we've gone to work to get this up and running. And as we speak, work is now being done on new window coverings and all sorts of things, new fire suppression system, and the building is open on various occasions, especially this coming weekend when the Historical Society has an Apple Festival. Tours will be here so that folks can come through and see the ballroom and see the magnificent murals, and a prime example of Rufus Porter's wonderful handiwork. So we are blessed in North Reading, and this is just one small example of his work here in North Reading, and one small example, by the way, of the riches in North Reading.
Right.
So,
Pat, can you talk a little bit about what the difference is between the Historical Society, the Historic Commission? Because I think, some of our viewers aren't aware that there are multiple organizations that are all kind of focused on the historical aspect of the town.
Absolutely, and there's very much, there's a lot of confusion in that area. And so sometimes people say, well, what's the difference between a commission and the Historical Society, and the Historic District Commission, which is a whole other entity. Well, okay, the Historical Society is a private, non-profit 501c3, that's non-taxable corporation, and they collect artifacts and paper and letters and photographs and all kinds of things. They have a couple of rooms here in the lower level of the tavern where folks can find all kinds of things that might have to do with their family from years back, and photographs of the town and buildings and so forth. So we're so fortunate to have them working so hard to preserve what went before us. The Historical Commission is concerned with legislation, bylaws, things that will help to preserve the flavor of the town. The Historic District has control over the buildings that are in the Historic District in the center of town, which are mostly town-owned buildings. There are only 3 privately owned buildings in the Historic District. And that means that there are certain bylaws that ask those buildings to come to the Board of Directors of the Historic District and ask them if they are going to change a sign or change the outward, only the outward appearance of the building, to come before the board and present the changes so that it won't change the flavor of the building. In other words, if you have a very nice picket fence, white building with green shutters, you're not going to come in and say, I'm going to take down the fence and I'm going to paint my building purple and put up yellow shutters. That would really change the Historic District. So the Historic District Commission would say, you can't do that. You would spoil the whole Historic District. So that's just an example. Otherwise, they're very easy to get along with. So that is what they're there for. The Historic Commission and the Historic District are town-appointed boards. They work under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator. They are not private. They are appointed by the town. So that's the difference between those 3 historic groups.
That's great to know. Now, we have, a wide viewing audience, and some people, as a real estate show, tune in to learn different things, when they're considering what communities to move, in which to move. What are some of the things that the different historical commission, the society, what type of programming do they offer the North Reading families?
Well, the Historic Society has all kinds of programs, especially for children. The Historic Society is gearing up right now for their fall programs for the schools. And come October, we get 3rd grades into the Reverend Daniel Putnam House, where volunteers in appropriate early American dress take the children through the Reverend Daniel Putnam House, explaining to them about what it was like in the early days when the Reverend Daniel Putnam and his family lived in that house, and how they survived living in the wilderness here, and had to make their own way and had to provide their own food, had to depend on their neighbors, had to raise animals, had to grow food, and depend on the land even to create their own clothing. And so we show them about weaving and spinning and dyeing the cloth that they made and sewing it together, about using and reusing what they had made. It's amazing what these children have learned just in a couple of hours' time in a day's visit. And then when they get through with the Putnam House, they go to the schoolhouse, which had been moved from Main Street and is now on the property, and they attend a class in the schoolhouse with a school marm all dressed in her garb, and she gives them a class of about the 1890s. And they're pretty amazed by that, in which the boys have to enter from one door and the girls enter from another door. And one of them has to bring wood in for the wood stove and so forth. So it's
First-hand experience.
oh, it's
yeah.
great. It's just great. So it's a good day for them all. And we now have a brand new farm museum just finished and opening up on Saturday, a replica of the horse stalls that used to exist here in North Reading at the Congregational Church. And the museum will house the sleighs that came from North Reading, and wagons and plows and tractors and all kinds of farm implements. So they're all there for everyone to see, and it's really a wonderful thing we've pursued.
Now, where will that be located?
It's right there on the grounds.
Same grounds?
Yes,
Okay.
right there.
Great. Well, you're such a wealth of knowledge. I'm going to impose a little bit more and ask if you could maybe give us a tour of this room and point out some of the intricacies that you were talking about before with us, to kind of let people appreciate the value of the Rufus Porter murals that we have.
One of the things that we very often see in Rufus Porter's murals is the full-masted sailing ship. And here we have it. He's sailing right along out into the ocean. And we have the mountains here behind, and often see that. And billowing clouds off here in the corner. And Rufus Porter did sail. He did sail as far as Hawaii at one time in his life. And that must have made a big impression on him. And so it very often showed up in his murals, so it was not a surprise to find that here in his murals. And of course we have the forest in the foreground and the tracings. And as we go along, we find some more sailing ships, small ones on the horizon, little ones as we go along, and some ferns in the foreground, and some more ships along the edge and mountains in the background. And as we go further along, we've come upon an island, and in the island we have a couple of hunters who are pursuing, it appears to be deer. And the deer are coming to a sad end, it appears, because the hunters are getting them off to Land's End, and they're going to meet their demise, apparently. So that's going to be the end of them right there. And there's a sailor in his little boat coming up the side of the cove. And the billowing clouds again have appeared. And as we go further along, we have another ever-present steamship. So that's another part of his travels. He's often has steamships with the smoke belching from the chimneys. And there we have it.
Pat, just a quick question. We noticed two beautiful chimneys in the room here. At the far end, there seems to be some damage, and the mural appears to be a little bit different. Can you talk a little bit about what's happened over the years? And
well, over the years, there were leaks in the ceiling at the chimney, at the point of the chimney. There were several chimneys here. And that particular one was devastating to this room. And it wiped out the mural over that fireplace totally, so that there was nothing left there except bare plaster, crumbling bare plaster. And we had a very prominent artist who was a member of the society at the time, and she had gone to one of the buildings that was still in existence at that time in North Reading, and she copied a mural that was still in fairly good condition. And she took that copy and reproduced it there so that we would at least see what had existed in that building. Unfortunately, that was one of two buildings on Route 28 that was demolished and is no longer in existence. Unfortunately, in the 1970s, people did not value history as we do today, and that was one of the things that drove me to get involved in preservation and try to meld the past and the present and make it a happy union so that we can go forward in the future with preserving some of the past and bringing it into the future and go forward with some quality.
Well, as an antique homeowner in town myself, we really appreciate your efforts and all of the commission and the society's efforts in doing so. These are such beautiful spaces. I know that they'll be open for tours during the Apple Festival and then also for the tree lighting in later in the year.
We will.
Are there any other times that the public has an opportunity to see the space?
Our goal now is to have this as a regular function room for the town.
Great.
So that we will be able to have all kinds of functions in this room for people in town, that they'll be able to use it for their private functions and that the town itself will be able to use it for public functions.
Wonderful.
So we're hoping that that will be a reality before very long.
Oh, wonderful.
And I think it will come to pass.
It's been a lot of hard work and a lot of time coming. So
we're hoping.
Yes, thank you so much for your efforts and thank you so much for being our guest today.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
We really
Thank you for
appreciate
asking.
it. Thank you. And thank you for staying tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks so much to Pat. What a wealth of knowledge, and we are just so lucky to get to see the murals and really learn a lot about the town history from her. So we're very fortunate and appreciative that she was able to join us today for Talk of the Town. Yeah. And now for Bean 10 and Beyond. I'd like to highlight a new construction condominium located at 189 to 191 West 8th Street. Unit 3 is the condo that we're going to highlight. Beautiful new construction, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, $649,000, which sounds like a lot for the North Reading and Andover, Lynnfield, and North Reading communities. But you know, in Boston, it is a happening area. The seaport area of Boston, every time you drive through there, which for me is sometimes daily, there are new condo buildings going up, new apartment buildings going up, and the prices are just kind of through the roof. So it's a beautiful, beautiful unit, priced at $649, and we're finding lots of new construction in the similar price range. This does include 1 parking spot, not a full garage spot, it's 1 carport spot. But just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a flavor what's going on in South Boston specifically, but really in Boston in general, is that there's lots of great investment opportunities and lots of construction that keeps happening. So I don't think the Boston market's going to be slowing down anytime soon.
The greater Boston market certainly is very, very healthy.
Yeah.
Talking about condos and investments, we're going to talk about something to leave you with. Today we're going to feature 46 Main Street, Unit Number 9, which is at the Park Colony Condominium in North Reading. It's a 2-bedroom top floor unit. It consists of 776 square feet. It's an open kitchenette with stainless steel appliances. The living room has a slider to the balconies. And It's priced at $169,400. So I want you to think about this as an investment. If somebody bought this unit and you'd have condo fees to pay of $378 a month, and you'd have taxes of a little bit less than $200 a month. So if you took a rental income of somewhere around $1,250 a month, took off somewhere around $550 per month in expenses, you'd net about $700 a month income. So if you took that income and divided it by your investment of $169,000, you'd be seeing about a 5% rate of return, which if you put money in the bank, it would be at about a 1%, maybe 1.5% rate of return. So if you have some money sitting in the bank at 1%, you might want to think about buying some real estate as investment, and this would be a great place to start. Feel free to give us a call at any time.
You got to spend money to make money, right,
That's
Dave? Thank you once again for watching. If you have any questions or have any questions about the show or anything that you'd like us to feature on future episodes, now that we've got 10 under our belt, we're looking forward to the next 10, feel free to email us at price.thishouse@century21.com. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you next time.
Thanks again, and thanks to our special visitor, Pat Romeo.
Thank you.